Welcome. This is Ray Solo, Toowoomba's very own live baby boomer musician, broadcasting to you from the studios of the Multicultural Podcast Hub in the premises of Nepalese Goodies, where it's all about colour, culture and music. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful...
So here we are today. This is KRAZY Kevin, and I've got some amazing news for everybody. I am going to be interviewing from the Toowoomba Cultural Community Podcast the main man, Ray Solo, and tell you all about, let's find out all about him, because I'm just finding out about him because he's the main man. And he's here with me today. Ray Solo, how are you today?
Oh, I'm really well, thanks, Kevin. How about yourself? You're good?
Oh, I'm good. Well, this is an amazing initiative that you're doing. Tell me, how did it start?
Well, I've always been interested ever since a child in multiculturalism. I mean, when I went to school, for example, at primary school, we had the White Australia policy, where only people from Northern Europe, in particular heavily favoured UK, were allowed to come to Australia. And it started to widen out a little bit, and we were allowed to bring in Northern Europeans. And I had a friend in grade 2 who had come from Holland.
Oh, wow.
So I discovered, by being friends with this young man, that even from Northern Europe, although our cultures are very similar, there were some differences, and I found them absolutely fascinating. Of course, as we went on, we then broadened our immigration policy, and we were allowed to start to bring in all sorts of people, Southern Europeans who were called wogs in those days, and now we don't say that sort of thing because it's sort of discriminating against them. But now we have all sorts, and everybody's got a story to tell and something interesting to show to the rest of us.
Well, tell me, Ray, a little bit about your background, because you're a musician.
That's right. Ever since I was about the age of 14, I started playing music professionally. And I can always remember my dad, very Australian guy, little boys of 14 were supposed to mow the lawn. And he would give me 5 shillings to mow the lawn, and we had a monstrous big lawn. However, as a musician, I was playing with bands in nightclubs and getting £5 a night. Who'd want to mow the lawn?
Wait a minute, our listeners are thinking now, what the heck is £5? £5's about what?
£5.
$10?
A bit over $10, you know. But in those days, $10 or £5 was a fair bit of money. It certainly was better than 5 shillings pocket money.
Oh. So then, what did you progress to after? Well, you're still a musician now, doing fantastic stuff.
I am, yes. I've played music in a number of locations, in a whole lot of different styles of music. I even spent quite a lot of time in the Alps in Austria playing Oom-Papa music in traditional bands there. And but locally, I've worked with a lot of people that were famous in my day. People like Johnny O'Keefe and even people like Slim Dusty. Can you believe it? The Bee Gees. I've worked with the Bee Gees.
Bee Gees?
Yes. And quite a few other people. But to modern people, they're probably a dim memory. But I still play music, and I do a solo act now because with technology, I don't need to have a lot of other musicians with me. I can write the songs exactly how I want them and play.
But you're still singing live.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I sing live, and I actually play an instrument live because otherwise it's like a karaoke, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, back to your multiculturalism.
Yes, yes.
You actually lived in Vietnam. Tell everybody about that.
Yes, I did. I decided that I wanted to. I had a business on the Gold Coast. I had two businesses on the Gold Coast, and they were both doing extremely well. However, I was getting bored, and I decided I had met a gentleman who was what they call a Geshe, and he came from Tibet, and he was a Tibetan Geshe, and that is like a doctor of divinity. And he told me lots of interesting things, and it spiked my imagination as to how different cultures perceive life. And I decided that I wanted to do something good for the world, if I could, just my little contribution, because I had earned enough money to be to be self-sufficient, etc. And I took a course in teaching English to speakers of other languages, and I decided, yes, once I've done that, I already had some university degrees and stuff like that, which I found, to be quite honest, rather useless. But this was something that was very practical. So I decided that I would go, and I applied for some jobs. It was easier than I thought, and I actually scored a job in Taiwan. But on the way to Taiwan, the cheapest flight was to stop in Ho Chi Minh City for 3 days as an overnighter and whatever, with Vietnam Air. So I decided to take that. I stayed there for 3 days and 3 nights, but during that time I sort of liked what I saw and decided, I met an English teacher there in a cafe, and said, how do I go about getting a job here? And he said, ring my school. So I rang his school, and on the phone I got the job.
Brilliant. And
So-
how long did you stay there for?
25 years.
Oh,
That's in Vietnam, but during the time I was in Vietnam, I progressed from one school to another, and in the end, I was actually training teachers in Vietnam to teach English. And I was working in universities and teachers' colleges, and the company that I actually worked for were flying me all over the country and into other countries as well, where they also had flagship schools and colleges.
that is amazing, Ray. So now fast forward,
Yeah.
come back to Toowoomba,
Yes.
and you still got that drive and passion to do something for the community. That's why
Exactly.
you're doing this podcast.
That's it, because of as I grew up, the White Australia policy, as I mentioned earlier, was very heavy on my mind, and I decided that I would try to get Australian culture to accept foreign culture in a better way than they had in the past. And well, whilst we see it around as happening all the time, like various festivals that we see even in our own town, like there was only one last weekend, as you know, and the thing that these other people, not Aussies, have something to offer us which we should be paying attention to. We can incorporate into our own culture, and it enriches our culture. And if I can help with that, I'm very happy to do that, because it broadens.
On your podcast, you are going to actually find people, talk to people from all different nationalities, and put them on the podcast.
That's the plan. Initially, I made an alliance with a gentleman called B.J. Chappagan, and he's from Nepal, and he's very influential in the Nepalese community and also in the multicultural community, and he's very supportive of this whole idea. It was his idea, actually. He approached me to become the host of this particular type of podcast, and I'm happy to do it. And he has introduced me to a number of people, and I've already spoken to a number of people who want to be involved in this because they're happy to share their culture with other people. Now, this doesn't mean that we will only be doing culture from Asian countries or any particular country. We'll also be looking for people who have a cultural input from our Australian culture.
Yes.
For example, there's a huge value in local musicians here. Mm-hmm. And they all have something to add as well. So and various other things, you know. For example, I went to a market the other day where I saw an an older gentleman, or even older than me, and that's damn old. He is hand making wooden toys, and he's an Aussie through and through. And so he's got a story to tell, and I hope that I can talk to him too. They're those sort of people. Anybody who's got a cultural input in any way, we want to know a bit about it.
Well, this is a brilliant insight into the podcast man himself, Ray Solo. Ray, how can people contact you if they want to have a chat with you?
Oh, right, okay. Well, I do have a Facebook page. It's called Ray Solo, so that's pretty easy. And I also have a telephone number, 0474 312 079. Shall I say that again?
Go on then, say that again.
Yes, 0474 312 079. And, you know, if you want to be involved in this podcast, all you have to do is contact me by either of those. Will do. And we can arrange to have an interview with you. It could even be, we're hoping to be able to get the equipment, that we can even come to you if necessary, if you find it difficult to get to our studio, which will be, by the way, in the premises of the shop called the Nepalese Goodies. Now, that may be changing location, so just keep an eye out for that. But yes, you could come to the studio, or we could do, if you're not in town, we can also do these interviews by Zoom. And all I do is send you the link, and at the right time you click on the link, I start talking to you, record it. And if you make a boo-boo, it's easy.
We've got the editing things.
We've got editing things. I mean, you, Kevin, you know all about editing things because you worked in radio. Yes, okay.
Ray, it's been a fascinating talking to you. Hopefully this is an insight into Ray for the start of this project, which is going to be amazing, and we want everybody listening to get on board because we've got some fascinating stories out there which we want everybody to hear about.
That's about right. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thanks Ray, for allowing me to interview you.
Oh, yes, that's all right. That's no problem at all. I really appreciate it. Okay, thanks, folks.
Thank you, Ray.
Bye now. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. This has been Ray Solo, Toowoomba's very own live baby boomer musician, broadcasted to you from the studios of the Multicultural Podcast Hub in the premises of Nepalese Goodies, where it's all about colour, culture and music. If you are involved in a multicultural activity that our region should know about and you'd like to talk about it to our listeners, please contact us. We'd love to have you on the show.